everybody, and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. Today we're taking a little bit of a turn from our typical board-based games, and we're going to be looking at some minis today. The Axis and Allies War at Sea miniatures, to be exact. And we're going to show you just a really quick battle. And but I'm just going to show you some of the fleets here. Got them kind of laid out. I don't have all my ships out, but got 90% of them out anyway. And so you get your Anzac fleet here, mostly Australian, some New Zealand in there, kind of back and forth. America is probably my largest fleet, including, as you can see, some air power back there, and some submarines and PT boats there. 109's in there, sure, I am sure. Canada, a little bit more of a diminutive presence, but really punched above her weight there in World War I and II, being a pretty small nation, all things considered. But hey, part of the British Empire, so when mom's in trouble, you got to go home, right? So we answered the call, and at the end of the war, I believe we had the third largest Air Force and fourth largest Navy, I believe, or was it the third largest Navy, fourth largest? Anyway, we were up in the top four for both Air Force and Navy. We cranked out a lot of material. I know we bought a lot of stuff as well, especially off America before America was in the fight. So it's good to have friends who have stuff when you need it, right? Over here we have France, which had an amazing navy, and just didn't get to strut her stuff, obviously, because, well, hard to fight when your government has run off to London. And the Nazis are controlling everything, and then the British go and bomb your fleet, which we all know they had to do. You know, sad but true. Because you don't want all that hardware falling into the hands of the Nazis. Speaking of the Nazis, the Wehrmacht, this is the Kriegsmarine and a little bit of the Luftwaffe there. And they also had a very substantial navy as far as quality goes. Not so much quantity. The Italians also, I mean, due to necessity, right? It definitely needs a very healthy navy, as its northern borders are fairly secure with mountainous passes and whatnot, but lots and lots of coastline to defend, so they had a very large navy as well. The Taranto raid was part of trying to silence that navy. The British also have their navy, and some of the RAF are here as well to join us, and they're just a little distracted. The RAF, the ferry swordfish, they were going after the Bismarck. Thought I'd put that out there. But the British had a fairly decent navy, as we all know. Number one for a couple hundred years. So good for them. And over here we have Japan, and the Imperial Japanese Navy was, of course, a fearsome weapon until they misused it a couple of times, and all of a sudden it wasn't such a big deal anymore. But they did have a monstrous fleet, of course, that just couldn't keep up with the losses they were sustaining at the hands of the Americans and the British in the Pacific theater. Mostly the Americans, of course, as the British were fighting for their lives over in Europe. And over here we have a very small Soviet contingent, but it's there nonetheless. Didn't have a lot to do during the war. Most of the Russian Navy action was bombarding the Germans when they got close to the coastline, and that was their calling. So today what I'm going to do is show you essentially a small battle. This is not an equal battle. Truth be told, I haven't even added up how much these are. So here we got, there's 96 points there. This is Japanese. We got the Yamato coming in. And these are just gorgeous sculpts, folks. They're just gorgeous. You can even see all the little anti-aircraft turrets. And the guns, of course, turn. The little ones, you can even see the couple of little planes they have on there. They couldn't retrieve them very easily. I don't think they had cranes on the Yamato. Somebody can set me straight on that. And yeah, so there's the Yamato, 70 points. The Shoho, it's just a small carrier, light carrier. It can only carry one squadron. I got two squadrons here, but one of them is going to be land-based, and we're going to talk about that as part of the rules. That's why they're out there. On the Allied side, we'll start over here with the good old USS Saratoga. This is the cream of the United States Navy's carrier fleet in my collection, anyway. I also have some other good ones as well, but this is the one that is the highest priced at 26 points. And then we're going to have a Mitchell, which is going to be a land-based bomber, and can't really see him when they're on the cards, I guess. And then we got an Avenger torpedo bomber, a Hellcat for fighter cover, Dauntless dive bomber. We got a Catalina here that's going to keep tabs on the Japanese movements. And then a little nod to my former game partner, Dutch Lancaster. Going to throw in a Dutch sub here. The HRMS. I'm going to say that's something about honorable royalty, something, something, majesty, something. Zwaardvis, which I think is probably swordfish in Dutch, but there you go. And then we have the good old Canadian destroyer, the Algonquin. Just a very small, quick ship, but it's very handy. And again, the Canadian Navy was kind of on her own for the most part, heading out from North America for the first couple of years of the war, and using a lot of the American destroyers that the British had bought in that Lend-Lease for the British bases in the Caribbean. But enough of the history lesson. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up, and we're going to see how this game is played. It's out of print right now. So this collection that I have here has to do me unless I can find people who are trying to get out of it. I just completed one transaction and got a number of ships. It costs quite a bit. They're not cheap anymore. Some of these ships, I know they're rares. If you look on the cards, at the bottom of the card, it tells you what pack they're from, the number, and if it's a star, it's a rare. And some rares are just going for ridiculous amounts of money, like $100 US for some of the rares that are out there. I think the Yamato's going for 60, 70 bucks. Some of the American ships, the Mighty Mo, I think she's going for 80. And yeah, it's just crazy. But you know, if you're into collecting, this is an amazing set of ships, and since they haven't been making them for about 5-6 years now, they're getting rarer and rarer as people lose them, or the dog eats them, or other unseemly things happen to these. So if you can hang on to yours, if the popularity remains where it is and people are still trying to collect, you should be able to maintain their value. And hey, but you know what? I know a lot of people like to collect things and not open them. You'll even see that here I've got a couple. There's one ship there, another ship there, a couple of ships. I've got a hood over here and a repulse, I believe, that are still in plastic. I believe in playing games when you get them. I don't think that you should keep them in bags, but those are in bags because I have doubles, and I don't like playing like bringing out two hoods or bringing out I'm not even sure what my other ones are that are doubles right now, but two repulses or what have you. I just don't see the point of that. So keep them bagged, and their value is up about 20% over having been played with. So, but anyway, enough. Well, it's history and economics. So now we're going to get to it. Yeah, these games are always best when you play them. You know, looking at the ships is fun, but until you get to roll midfuls of dice, it's not really a game. So we're going to let you know how that goes in just a second. Hang on. Alright, there are two different ways to play this game. There's really only one, because this is the official version, and you can see that they're just paper mats. Some people have got some really, really nice tables I've seen. They overlay them with glass. and they look just gorgeous. And as you can see from this, there are squares all around. The little squares are meaningless. They don't have anything to do with anything really. But they are little 64 squares a piece. Look to be about a centimeter each. So little 8 by 8 centimeter boxes all around. And that pertains to things like movement and range. So let's take a look at the Yamato here. So the Yamato has a speed of 2. You can see that up near the top. And most surface vessels have a speed of 2, and most subs have a speed of 1, as we can see from the Zwaardvis. Hope I'm saying that right. Dutch, you'll let me know. And so that means very simply, so if the Yamato were here, the Yamato can move 2. So it'd be 1, 2, or it could go 1, 2, or 1, 2. Yeah, I do the math. Okay, pretty simple. Submarines, on the other hand, move a lot more slowly, but they do have an advantage in that they get to start near the center of the map instead of having to start in the back. So that's why they move a little bit more slowly. Now, if you don't like the map the way it is, this is mostly water, a little bit of land. There's also a map that has complete water, so you are just, I'm just going to flip this over here, and then the other side is the axis part, and then this is all just water. And you don't even have to worry about running into shoals or anything like that. And then on each corner, you're going to have an airfield. That is kind of more of an abstract way of denoting land-based aircraft. We'll go there at the end of the air return phase, which I'll talk about in a minute. They also have these on this map here. You can see one there, and then there's also one right here. All right. The other thing you can do is use cards that come with the advanced pack, and use them to put in an island right there. You can also put in shoals or shallows. It says shoal right on the card, actually, I just noticed. This is stuff that I just got with my purchase, so I haven't played with the cardboard ones yet. Essentially, boats that have a deep draft can't go in there, so destroyers and up cannot go into this square here, but torpedo boats, S-boats, things like that can hit in there, motor patrol boats, things like that. So they might have an advantage skipping away. The problem with these, for those little ships, is that it doesn't block line of sight. And line of sight is everything in naval warfare, as you know. If you don't have a line to the target, you can't see the target, well, it's a little difficult to know that you have to shoot that way. There's also double islands, and of course you could design your own. Okay? So that is how you play using these things. You just use the squares and you move 1 or 2. And then the range is here. You see it on the Yamato. I'm using the Yamato because it's got a little extra on it. You see the attacks. You see 0, 1, 2, and 3. And then you see the dice at 18, 18, 16, and 15. So that's the number of dice you're going to roll. And a 4, 5 is a hit, and a 6 is a double hit. So the Yamato can really bring the hurt, even reaching out to 3. But it can also go, as it says here on the card, extended range 4. So when it's undamaged, if it hasn't taken a shot yet, taken damage, then it can actually shoot out to range 4. So that means if the Yamato were here, and the good old Algonquin were there, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And the Algonquin is going to hope that the Yamato misses, because the Algonquin's range is only 2. So if the Algonquin tried to close with the Yamato, which it really shouldn't ever do, except possible lucky torpedo hit, even if the Yamato said, I'm just going to back up, it's still out of range. So yeah, destroyers chasing battleships in this game doesn't end well for the destroyer. Okay? But the Algonquin does have torpedoes, so that's kind of cool. And it's got a good range on the torpedoes too. Most torpedoes go 2, some only shoot 1. I think there's a boat out there where they actually shoot 3, but I might be daydreaming on that one. So that's playing on the map. Oh, I wanted to say more about the range. So let's say that the Algonquin actually get this close to the Yamato and was trying to hit it. Unfortunately, the destroyer only has at range 2 3 dice. The armor of the Yamato is 10. So even if the Algonquin got 3 hits with 6s, that would be 6 damage against an armor of 10. It would do nothing. You have to at least match the armor to put a dent in her. So this would be really, really bad. But let's say that the Algonquin did get that close, or the Yamato got that close, or maybe the Algonquin is hunting a sub or something and said it's worth the risk. The Yamato, during the gunnery attack phase, can attack with her main guns. I'm going to point with a submarine here. Attack with the main guns because it's a range of 2, but can also attack with secondary guns with 7 dice and tertiary guns, probably little 5-inchers, I guess. And there you go, with 3 more dice. So if the Algonquin got that close, it could be under 3 shots. I suspect it would die with that because the Algonquin only has a vital armor of 7. So with 16 dice, you'd only need to get 7 hits, and a couple of 6s is already 4. So I think the Algonquin would be in trouble. So that is how that range works. Okay. All right, and that is that for range. Air range is always a 0. 0 means that you have to be in the same box. So you can only shoot at planes above your ship. I think there is one ship that has extended anti-air. Maybe there's a couple of them. But they can shoot out a little further. Not as effectively, of course, but they'll send the love that far. All right, that is it for that map. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the one that I devised a couple of years ago, and it seems to hold up pretty well. We've replaced the squares with measurement, okay? And we've, instead of using the cardboard islands or other things, we can use these. Now these I actually got in the recent sale, the purchase I just made. And the gentleman was really nice enough to send me these. They're just styrofoam. He's carved them out and shaved them down. They look really good. And then he just painted them up. There's an airfield he threw on there. And yeah, it looks really, really nice. And this will be my first chance to throw them out here. Again, I'm just playing solo today. And again, I never claim to be an authority on the games on my channel as far as, you need to listen to me and do what I say. Not at all, folks. I just love these games so much. I want to get them out there in the community, get them out there to people who aren't familiar with them, and so that they, hopefully play as well. So if you see me doing tactics that aren't too smart, that is fine, because this one here is going to be all guns blazing, and the goal, of course, is to kill half of the stuff. Now there are 96 points here, which means that the Americans have to sink the Yamato. And here there are 99 points for the Allies. I switched out the Catalina and threw in the Fletcher because the points were up 100 and something. So now they're at 99 points. So essentially the Japanese have to sink 50 points worth of stuff, which could be the Saratoga and the planes. But we shall see once we get going on our Axis and Allies War at Sea. Okay, so we have our stuff set up here, and as you can see, there is an edge of the world for all those flat earthers out there. There you go, there it is. It's in Abbotsford. And the way we're going to play this is with the range rules that I developed a couple of years ago. Again, they've held up to some pretty good scrutiny here, so we're going to do them again today. So on the cards, again, we'll grab Mr. Yamato here. Okay, on the card you can see the ranges of 0, 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, of course, with the extended range. Okay, so for us, that's going to change things. So for the Hilltop Pillbach rules for the range, 0 to 4 inches is equal to 0 range. So essentially you're in the same space. 4 to 8 inches is range of 1, 8 to 12, 2, 12 to 16 is 3. Now you're saying, what about, what if it's right at 8 inches? What do? We always take the lower because we always want to throw more dice. All right, so if it's exactly at 8 inches, then we obviously would throw enough dice to match range 1 weaponry. All right, hasn't actually happened yet. We've always been able to say, no, that's 8 1/16, or that's 7 15/16. We've never run into that's exactly 8. Because what we do is target from midships, so you always go midships to any point on the target ship. Okay, and that tells you whether or not you're in range to hit it. Okay, so we've got everything set up here, and when you set up with the, put that over there. When you set up with the map, with the squares, everything has to go into the back row, except for submarines. They can go out all the way to just in front of the midpoint line. Now the midpoint line is around here somewhere, so we're going to put that sub there. So you can see it gets a little bit of a head start. Now right now I can hear it. Some of you are screaming, what about the objectives? The objectives! Yes, the objectives, that is a thing. And so typically you'll throw some objectives out there, 3 objectives, typically straight in a line abreast, and you just try to take control of that, get within 4 inches of that, and your ship gets it, which is great because that is worth a whole bunch of points. In the books, the rules state that you're trying to get to 150 points. We never really like that because if you're playing with a 400 or 500 point Navy, 150 points is nothing, and they assign 50 points to each objective in the rules. So, you get some fast ships out there and grab them and then cart them away. There you go. Or if you're just trying to get here and stay here, then you just grab your biggest battle wagons you can, get them some good air support, and you just go park by there, and it's the luck of the dice. Not really a lot of strategy. And so what we like to do, I'm not saying it's a bad game. That's not the point of that comment at all. Hopefully nobody took it for that. But that's where it breaks down, is when you say, oh, you're gonna play to a certain number of points. Now, I am sure there are updated rules out there. I am sure there's errata written. I haven't run across it myself. I haven't really been looking that hard. So what you want to do is find what's good for you and run with it. And like I say, we've said half the value of the fleet that you're facing should make it turn tail and run. As we know in World War II, I mean, if you lost a couple of ships, you'd tend to turn tail and run, especially if you hadn't even seen the enemy yet. So what we're going to do here is we're going to be using the tape measure, and I know you don't want to watch all the different movements and placements and things like that, so we'll come back in just a second. Thought it might be handy to show you the sequence of play for this game. As you can see, there's all these different phases, and they're spelled out very nicely on the back of the rule book. The initiative phase, you roll a couple dice to see who's going to decide who goes first, and you add initiative from your flagships. So heading over to the Yamato again, you can see a flag there with a 2 on it. It means it's going to add 2 to your dice roll. The Americans, on the other hand, don't have any ship that has initiative. So they're not going to add anything to their dice roll. Another couple things I want to note is that I think I told you I already brought the Fletcher in, but the Izokaze is in now instead of the George. The George was a land-based fighter, but I noticed that nothing here had anti-sub capabilities whatsoever, and so the sub could just be that annoying and get a couple of quick hits, and it could be over. So we're gonna make the sub aware of the presence here. Although the Izokaze, once it gets sunk, then the sub can play with impunity because there'll be no other anti-sub stuff. Just a reminder for you, when you are playing this game, definitely make sure that you bring enough stuff for anti-air and anti-sub, because if you don't bring anti-sub stuff, it could be difficult to fight those subs. Now, I believe the rules state, I haven't looked at these rules in a long time, but I believe the rules state that subs can't actually take objectives. So they're not a threat to that. And it is a 7-round game. So you play 7 rounds, and at the end of the 7 rounds, whoever has the most points wins, if nobody has won by then. And that is, if nobody is completely in charge at that point, you can do that. You can just say, okay, who's got the most points? And if nobody's, far and away the winner, you can keep playing. Now, again, the 7 rounds, that's something we put in. I'm not sure that was actually in the original rules. I don't think it was. Just looking right now to see if it was. I don't see it. No, it's all about, yeah, it's all about the points. So they just keep playing until you get your 150 points or more, and there you go. All right, so like I say, we're going to play half. So essentially the Yamato is looking to get sunk. If the Yamato can sink the carrier and these other 2 ships before it gets sunk, then that'll probably be a win for the Japanese. I'll tell you right now, this is definitely an uphill battle for the Allies. Unless they get some lucky torpedo hits, this could be a problem. All right, going to go back to the sequence of play here. So you roll the initiative, then you do sea movement. And so the first player moves all of his ships, and then the second player moves all the ships and subs. Then you do the air mission. That's where you alternate the aircraft. Okay, so the Japanese only have 1 aircraft now, so if they have initiative, they'd place their 1 aircraft. So this is a fighter. It's probably going to try to protect the carrier. So it'd probably sit there. If it's within 4 inches of any ship, so that might be a smart idea, because then it could protect ostensibly all 3 of those ships. It's within 4 inches. Then the Americans would place all 4 of their aircraft anywhere they want. Okay? So, but if Japan had another fighter, like still had the George, then they'd place that one, the Americans would place one, the George would go on, and the Americans would place the rest of theirs. Okay. Then you do, that's the air mission phase. Then you do air defense phase. That's where all the anti-air attacks you want to use are put into play. And anti-air attacks, of course, here's the Yamato card, have that plane in the target at the bottom. So 7 dice. The Shoho would have 5. The Zeke would have 7 because the Zeke is a fighter, so obviously it's going to do well against planes. And the Uzukazi also has 5 dice. Okay, so you're going to get some anti-air air defense that way. After all the air defense is done, so you've taken all the shots that you want to at the aircraft, then the aircraft get to do their attacks. And so the first player would do the air attack, then the second player would do the air attack, and you use every single thing you've got on any of your aircraft to attack ships. All you want, go for it. You've already attacked the planes with your air defense. Now you attack the ships if you have that ability. Okay. Then the surface attack phase, that's where all your surface ships and use everything, and this is where people get confused. You do your surface attack phase, but that doesn't mean that you can't use torpedoes. Jumped ahead. That doesn't mean you can't use your anti-sub, like your depth charges. So we'll look here at let's look at the Algonquin here. It's the Algonquin, you can see, has depth charges and torpedoes. It can use its depth charges at this point, as well as its main gunnery. That's a part of the surface attack. But then, the next phase is the torpedo attack phase. Okay, everything that shoots torpedoes shoots at that point. And then, all of a sudden, you disappear all the planes, and you have the end of the turn, claim objectives. It says if you have a ship in that sector and no enemy ships in it adjacent to that sector. So you got to be pretty much alone. There can't be ships in my game here. You can't have ships within 8 inches of your boat. Okay, or of the objective, actually. Now the interesting thing you need to know about this is after each of these attacks, so you have the air defense, air attack, surface attack, torpedo attack. Each phase is different, which means that if something gets hit in this and sunk, or I guess that's air defense, that doesn't make any sense, air attack. So let's say something gets sunk in this phase, it can't attack in this phase because it's sunk in this phase. It could be damaged in this phase and then shoot in this phase, but everything is done by phases. So you add up your casualties and then take care of business. So some torpedo might get killed here with anti-sub warfare attack. Okay, that means it's not around to shoot its own torpedoes during the torpedo attack phase. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense to you, and we are going to get things rolling here, and we'll let you know how things are working out in just a minute. Alright, so here's all the action. We've got the, what do we got going on here? We got the Dauntless and the Avenger coming in on the Yamato, and we've got the Hellcat and the Mitchell coming in on the Izukazi. But there is the Zeke coming in to provide support. Now that looks pretty simple, alright, but there's a lot of play that goes on here between all of these things. So what we're going to start with is the air defense phase, and we're going to do the ship's dice first. Alright, now I'm not going to show you each and every single round of this whole game, but I thought I'd show you these ones here. So the Yamato is going to defend herself, and she wants to defend herself. She's going to be using 7 dice, and she wants to go against the one that's going to cause probably the most damage. Alright, so if we look at the Dauntless has an armor of 5 and a vital armor of 8. Hull points 1, which means that one hit will knock it out if you get the vital armor. And so pressing the attack here means that if it's aborted, so if the Yamato gets 5 or more 5, 6, or 7 hits on it, this thing can try to press the attack and go through. But you can see it rolls 10 dice for its bomb attack. So that's the one that the Yamato is going to try to take care of. The Avenger is going to be bringing 3 torpedoes. Only hits on 6s, but it's double hits. So let's see what we see here. So the Yamato gets 7 dice. It's going to try to take out the Dauntless. Needs 5 hits to abort it. Oh my. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So as we look at the Dauntless, we see that the Dauntless has an armor of 5, vital armor of 8. So it's going to be aborted, which means it's not going to take part in this attack. So the Dauntless is going to be aborted. No joy. But that leaves the Avenger open for the attack as well on the Yamato. Now the Izukazi isn't quite as hefty a boat. Still gets 5 dice though, and it has to make a choice between the Mitchell or the Hellcat. Now the Hellcat is a fighter. Its vital armor is 7 because it's tiny, right? Tiny to hit, and it was tough. So, and it's one of the advanced fighters. You can see it came in 43, and it's got advanced fighter on here, and escort and all the rest. So we're going to tell you what the escort means as well. But for right now, the Izukazi is going to use her 5 dice and going to try to shoot down the Mitchell, because the Mitchell can bring the hurt. 7 bombs, and can also use skip bombs, which means when it gets a hit with a 6, it actually counts for 3, which would, as we can see, do some damage here. That would be an auto hit, and if it got a couple of those in another hit, that would hit the vital armor and sink the Izukazi in one go. So the Izukazi is going to try to keep the Mitchell at bay. Alright, so the Izukazi with 5, the Mitchell has an armor of 4. There's a 1 6 is probably needed at least here. Okay, so there is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the Mitchell is also aborted from the fight. So the Mitchell will not be doing anything. Now, the other anti-air we have is the Zeke. Now the Zeke here is also rolling an extra die because of surprise. So if it's the first turn of the game, this unit rolls one extra attack die when attacking. And we can see that its anti-air is 7, so it's going to get 8 dice. And it is going, now that the Mitchell is taken care of, it's aborted, it's not going to be doing anything, then it's going to go after the Hellcat. Now, the Hellcat, we can see, has the escort. Okay? So if this unit is in the same sector as a friendly bomber, which it is, with the Mitchell, enemy fighters get -1 on each attack die when making anti-air attacks against that bomber. Unfortunately, the bomber is already done, so the Hellcat is the one getting shot at. So no -1 on the Zeke's dice. Alright, so we're looking, the Hellcat here has the armor of 7. The Zeke gets 8 dice because it's the first round of the game. Pops out of nowhere and does nothing. So that would just be 4 hits, 2 for the 6, and then, or sorry, 3 hits. And there you go. So no dice, as they say. Now the Hellcat can do its anti-air against the Zeke, and because it's an advanced fighter, it rolls 2 extra dice when making anti-air attacks against fighters. So it's going to get 8 plus the 2 is 10 dice. So it's 10 dice going up against the Zeke. Oh, I think Zeke's in trouble here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we look here and we see that the Zeke's vital armor is 8. So the Zeke has been destroyed. So we don't get to use these too often. The Zeke has been destroyed. Okay? So that is all the anti-air phase, air attack phase, air defense phase, pardon me. Alright? That is it. Now, anything that survived is going to go on to the air attack phase. Okay? This is where you attack enemy ships or subs with your aircraft units using anti-sub warfare, bomb, gunnery, or torpedo attacks. Okay? Now, of course, the fighter, okay, the Hellcat, it's done. Okay? We know the Zeke is done. So this one here has been aborted. Okay? That's the Dauntless. But the Avenger is alive and well, ready to go in. So the only air attack that we're going to actually have is the Avenger. Now the Avenger, it's a battleship killer. So it says here this unit rolls 1 extra attack die when making torpedo attacks against battleships. So that's what it's going to do. So we're going to grab 1 here and we can see torpedo attacks 3. Again, it could use the alternate payload of 7 dice, but we're going to stick with torpedoes because each 6, of course, is a double hit. And now the Yamato does have torpedo defense 1, which means each torpedo hit rolled against this unit deals 1 less point of hull damage. So 7 dice as bomb might be the way to go. I'm looking at the wrong card there. The Avenger. So we can use 7 dice as the bomb, or 3 dice as a torpedo. But we got to get into that. Now with torpedoes, by the way, this doesn't mean anything. That's why torpedoes are so potent. They don't look at the armor. They don't care about the armor. Okay, so if you get 1 torpedo hit, it's a hit. You don't have to worry about vital armor and all that kind of nonsense. So we're going to use torpedoes. Okay, so this is the Avenger coming in unscathed, 3 dice, but 4 because it gets the extra die when it's attacking a battleship. Alright, so you're looking for 6s only with torpedoes. Oh, look at that. Kablam, kablam. Now if the Yamato didn't have torpedo defense 1, that would be 4 hits. But it does, but that actually is a game changer right there. 2 hits on the first round on the Yamato. I don't know if I've ever seen that. So there's going to carry 2 damage with her. Okay. That's never a lot of fun. And Oh, we forgot the show. Oh boy, my mistake. And when you make mistakes like this, you just smile and move on. Forgot about the expert dogfighter, even put the die on the card. The the Zeke should have had 9 dice attacking instead of 8. But I don't think it would have mattered because that 8 dice, I think it only had a grand total of 3 hits. So there we go. It wouldn't have mattered anyway against the Hellcat with an armor of 8. Okay, so no harm done, but the Zeke is gone anyway. All right, so that is it. So now we're done the air attack phase. I guess one little housekeeping note, you should clean up the dead stuff. You should clean up the dead stuff, flip the card, put the unit on top, and there you go. Okay. Now we have, we've done the air attack phase, everything else that's been aborted and all that kind of stuff. Surface attack phase. Alright, so knowing that the Yamato is now damaged, it wasn't damaged at the beginning of the last phase, but in this last phase it was damaged. So that means now at this point it no longer has that range of 4. Only has a range of 3, and as we look at our handy dandy chart, a range of 3 goes to 16 inches. So as we look at 16 inches here, going from midships out, there's nothing even close that it can shoot at. Of course, it can't use gunnery attacks to shoot at subs. So that is it. The Yamato with 2 damage and 6 hull points. It only has 4 hull points left. That's a pretty rough run right off the bat. Alright. Torpedo attacks is the next thing. But most torpedoes don't have a ton of range. The Izakaze actually has a torpedo that goes out quite a ways. Let's see here. 2 goes out to 12 inches. We'll see if the... Always go midships. So we're looking at 12 inches here and nothing's in range.
Off the great Japanese base at Rabaul on the northern tip of New Britain, United States carrier-based planes swooped down on enemy warships. Cameras in the wings of Navy dive bombers and fighters filmed the attack as one of the large Jap cruisers maneuvers to escape. Blasted and burning, the doomed cruiser is attacked again and again. Now carrying the war to the enemy, American forces have won mastery of the air in this area of the Pacific.
Oops, shut off the camera there by accident, folks. Alright, so yes, the Izakaze is within 16 inches, as we can see. Range 3 of the sub, but ships cannot shoot at subs with torpedoes. They must use their anti-sub warfare, or ASW, which is always a range of 1, because you're just launching those depth charges. Now, there are some subs that are able to attack other subs. They're pretty rare. But and usually you can only attack a sub that's within 4 inches or within the square you're in. All right, so that is it for the torpedo phase, since nobody can fire any. And now we have the air return phase. Okay. Well, the Japanese don't have to worry about that. All right. Now we're going to move these ones back to the carrier. Yes, and the Avenger with a very good round. Right. Now, unfortunately, with the Japanese plane getting wiped out, I'll have to use the Mitchell. So if the Mitchell comes back, obviously it's not going to be landing on the carrier. And right now, because it is a land-based bomber here, and there's nothing special on it that allows you to keep it from being rearmed. Rearmed is what happens to planes that have to be land-based. All right, you can have any number of planes you want land-based, but they have to rearm, which means every other turn they don't come out and play. All right, they stay in their base getting rearmed, whereas the carriers are able to collect, rearm, refuel, and get them back out faster. Now, I'm not sure if it's any real faster. I suspect it's possibly a little slower to do it on a carrier than at an airbase, but the carrier is typically closer to the action, okay? With the Battle of Midway notwithstanding. All right, so here we go. We are now at the end of the turn. Nothing is going on there, so then we're back to the top of the phase here with the initiative roll, the movement, and we'll have turn 2 just a minute. See if the Yamato can deal out any sort of hurt. All right, well, with the Japanese having no air force left and the Americans with just the 3 carrier-based planes, one's a fighter, not really doing much. And sometimes in the game you wouldn't even send this guy out because it's just possibly points to get shot down. But the Hellcat is the least point-heavy gun they've got, and he gets 3 dice on a strafing run. So you might get a lucky hit on the Uzokaze, who only has an armor of 2. So here we go. We are going to have the Yamato defend herself with 7 dice. And that Avenger caused too much trouble last time, so he's going to try to take out the Avenger. And we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits. Wait a second. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. 6 hits on the Avenger, and that's enough to make the Avenger turn around and go home. Alright. But the Dauntless and the Hellcat remain. Alright. So, we're going to let the Uzokaze defend herself. And she can actually shoot out any ship that is within 4 of her would be considered in the same zone on the grid game. If you're using the maps that come with the game, definitely within 4 inches of the Yamato. So she is going to try to shoot at the... We've got the Avenger out. We're going to go after the Dauntless this time with an armor of 5. Uzokaze has 5 dice. And got 1, 2, 3 hits. That's it, just 3. So the other 2 planes are good to go. Alright, here goes the strafing run of the Hellcat. You can see it's the main gunnery. That M is always main gunnery, so this is the aircraft's main gunnery attack. Going to go on the Uzokaze, and it can do some damage coming in. Let's see what happens here. 2 with a 6, and that is enough to damage the Uzokaze with an armor of 2. So that is a 1 damage on the Uzokaze. Just like that. From a strafing run of all things. Strafing runs will rarely, if ever, hurt things like cruisers and up. But destroyers and smaller boats, you know, you go along, and that strafing, I think, represents, you know, taking out crews, or crew, pardon me, and damaging any of the sensitive stuff. There's not a lot of top armor, especially on destroyers, so you come in blazing away, you can probably punch through, cause some real damage. Alright, so we know that the Avenger has been aborted from the fight, so the Dauntless is now here. And the Dauntless gets 10 dice in its bomb attack. 10 dice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, so here goes the Dauntless coming in on the beat up Yamato. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and a whole whack of 2s and 1s. And that's just not going to be enough. So 4 hits on an armor of 10. No good. Alright, so that is the air attack phase. I'll move the book over here. And now we're on to the surface attack phase. Alright, so the American is going to go first here because the American lost the initiative roll. And so this is where you attack using ships or subs. Or, sorry, with ships against subs and other ships. Now, unfortunately for the Allied side here, their ships do not have the range. They only have a range of 2. Range of 2 even on the submarine. The Saratoga does have a range of 3, but that's obviously the Saratoga is keeping its distance as best as it can. And the Fletcher only has a range of 2 as well. So range of 2, of course, is 12 inches. Which is a foot from anything. And there's nothing even close. Next turn, possibly, these guys can open up. But right now, they're just going to be on the receiving end because the Yamato has main gun and a secondary gun that can reach out 16 inches. And again, we go from midships. And 16 inches here, the Fletcher is within range of both of those attacks. So, and I don't know if the Izokaze is within range to do. No, it looks like it's just out of range. Try to get the camera right over top. Yeah, it looks like it's just out of range there of anti-sub warfare. Alright, the system works, people. Okay, so here goes the Yamato. So the Yamato is going to target the poor Fletcher. And the Fletcher has got an armor of 3 and a vital armor of 7. It can only take 2 hits and it's sunk. So we'll see what happens here because the Yamato at a range of 3 gets 15 and 5. So we're going to go with 5, 10, 15. So 15 dice. Okay, so let's just tell the people on the Fletcher it's time to swim because the vital armor is 7. Remember, if you match that or exceed it, that's the end of the boat. And we have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, so the Fletcher had a short life and got just within range and paid the price. Alright, so that is going to be 7 points to the Japanese. And the Zeke, I think, was, I want to say 6, but yeah, 6. So the Japanese are up 1. Just put this, actually, we'll just put it over here so we can keep track of the points a little more easily. We'll put that on the end. Alright. So that is it for the surface attack phase, because there's nothing within range. But now we have the torpedo attack phase. Okay, so torpedoes. Well, the only thing that can attack with the torpedo to something within range of torpedoes would be the Zwaardfish. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Zwaardfish. I don't know. And it is at a range of 1 or 2. It gets 3 dice, so we're not even going to bother measuring because we know it's either within 1 or 2. And the submerged shot means that this unit can make torpedo attacks against local enemy submarines. Local means in your same zone, so within 4 inches. Well, the Japanese have no subs, so that's just a moot point. So now the sub can shoot either at the Yamato or at the Izokaze. And I think it's probably going to shoot at the Yamato because a hit on the Izokaze will sink it, and these hits are worth more on the Yamato. They got to get some hits in. So we have 3 dice. And remember, 6s count as 2, but only 1 on the Yamato. So any 6s will be an extra damage. Will be 1 damage on the already damaged Yamato. Oh, and there's another one. So the Yamato is now up to 3 damage. Half of her hull is gone. It's only fired 1 shot, albeit one enough to sink a destroyer. Alright, well, good for the Swordfish. Alright, so that is it for the torpedo attack. And now we have the air return phase. So these planes will come back. This one was aborted, of course, so it didn't get to fire. And I believe that one missed. Okay, and we clean up anything that's been destroyed. Of course, the Fletcher is gone. Okay, so now we're on to turn 3. Oh, for Pete's sake, opposite side of the 10. Okay, we're on turn 3 now, which means that the Mitchell is back in business. It can now come out and play. So we are going to just flip that over. All right, and again, these islands are abstract. You can play that they're actual locations on the map where the ships can come and bombard. I also have ships that carry troops or supplies. There's hundreds of really fun scenarios you can do, like the in Guadalcanal, Japanese trying to bring stuff into their troops, and through the slot, and the Americans also trying to deny them that. And you can set up a pretty fun scenario where they're just trying to get their transport ships to the islands without getting blown up. And the Americans can only sustain so many casualties, pardon me. So we'll see what happens here, though. Things are getting chipped away. The Yamato's looking pretty beat up. Going to have to start exacting some more revenge here. We'll see what happens on turn 3. Alright, the Yamato decided not to move too far, and in fact, not at all really, and allowed the Shoho to gain enough ground so that it could land a bit of air defense. So now all 3 ships are able to shoot at these planes, which might be enough to save the Yamato from some more embarrassing hits from the air, and we'll just see what goes on. Here we have the air defense phase. So the Yamato again gets 7, the Shoho gets 5, and the Izokaze gets 5. So we're going to grab 7 dice, and they're going to start with the Mitchell and move their way down. So Mitchell, then if the Mitchell gets aborted, then it'll be the Avenger. If that works, then the Dauntless. Alright, so the Yamato is shooting at the Mitchell. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's not much, but I believe it's enough, as the Mitchell's armor is just 4. So it's not too hard to make the Mitchell turn around and go home. Alright. It does have a defensive armament thing, though, which allows it to, if it does get attacked by fighter in the air defense phase, it's going to get +2 armor. So you would have a 6 armor for the turn. But it didn't, because there's no fighters left. Alright, so now we have 5 dice going on the Avenger. Need 5 hits. So 5 dice from the Shoho. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's enough. So the Avenger gets aborted. And now we have 5 from the Izokaze. And the Isokaze is going to try to stop the Dauntless. Need 5. And not this time. Only 3. So half the planes are aborted. They're going to have to go back. So we're just going to move them out of the line of sight here. Alright, and there's no other air defense. So now it's all the air attack phase. So here we go. We're going to start with the Hellcat. See if the Hellcat can't get lucky with its 3 dice here. Just really needs one more hit on the Isokaze. Alright, firing blanks. And then we have the Dauntless with 10 bomb dice. So we have 10 bomb dice going at the Yamato. Need 10 hits. Ooh, nope, not quite. We got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Came up short. That would have absolutely blown the Isokaze to pieces, but I think the Americans are hoping to kill it with torpedoes in the next phase, or a couple phases from now. Alright, so that's the air attack phase. Now it's the surface attack phase. Alright, and the Americans get to attack first with surface ships. I put my tape measure over here. So the surface phase. So the Algonquin, knowing that the Mitchell is now at the bottom of the Pacific, the Algonquin has a range of up to 12 inches. We'll see if anything is within range. And it's from midships. And as you can see, the Isokaze is within range, as is the tip of the Yamato, but this little Canadian destroyer doesn't have the guns to shoot. Now, knowing that this can reach out 12 inches, the Isokaze can absolutely shoot back for 12. So we'll see though what happens first with the Algonquin. Has 3 dice. Oh my. Uh-oh. That didn't shine well on the Canadians, did it? My goodness gracious me. That's terrible. Alright, well that's it for surface for the Allies. Here comes the good old Yamato. Really only has one thing to shoot at. This is way too far. So it's going to roll its 15 dice at this poor sucker here. 5, 10, 15. At the HMCS Algonquin, which used to be a really nice ship. Yeah, yeah, we're not even going to count that up. So, he is destroyed. Alright, and other surface attacks, we can use our ASW attacks now. So the Isokaze is within range, within 4 inches. It's going to use its 5 dice against the Sverdfish. ASW, and the Sverdfish is a tough boat. It's got an armor of 3, which is pretty tough for submarines. Most subs are 1s and 2s, so it's a tough boat. Here we go. Need 3 hits to dent her. Oh, only got 1. That's not enough. And there's nothing else going on for any sort of depth charges. That was it. Alright. That is it. Alright. Now we are on to the torpedo attack phase. So anything that fires torpedoes can fire torpedoes as long as you're not shooting at subs. So there's nothing in range of the Isokaze, but the Sverdfish definitely gets her 3 dice. And should go after the Isokaze, but we gotta get rid of that. Gotta get rid of that. And another hit! Oh my goodness, this boat just keeps piling them on. So that's 4 damage now on the Yamato. Yamato is hurting for certain. Alright, and that is it for anybody shooting torpedoes. Alright, so yeah, because the Avenger got taken out. Yep, so that is it. Alright, so we're going to move all the planes back. And the Mitchell flew out, but unfortunately didn't even get to play. Didn't even get to play. But the Americans have actually been quite fortunate to not have any planes get shot down. That's the reason they're still in this game. And there goes the Canadian destroyer, the Algonquin. There you go. Alright, so there we are. We're going on to round 4. We'll see if half the points can be sunk or lost soon. This is 15 to 6, but I think there's some more coming pretty soon here for either side. Alright, here we go. Alright, the Yamato made a big move up and everybody came with her. And now the poor Saratoga is within gunnery range. So we'll see if she survives this round, because as you know, aircraft carriers don't have a huge amount of armor. Only got 5 armor. Not so good. Alright. But Americans are coming to try to sink the Yamato. They only need 2 more hits. 2 more hits and that's it for that monstrous battle wagon. So, but we got air defense first. So we've got 7 dice. And again, the Mitchell is gone now, so it's going to be Avenger, then Dauntless, then Hellcat. So the Avenger are getting shot at. Oh, they're going to make it through this time. Okay, and we got to shoot at the Avenger again. Nope. And the Avenger the last time. Nope. Wow, that's some pretty anemic anti-air. So all 3 of the American planes make it through. So the Dauntless. We'll start with the Dauntless. You get 10. So that's 5. 10 bombs coming in. This is the Dauntless. Okay, so that's these guys here coming in. 10 dice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not quite enough. Needed a couple of 6s there to help you out, but nothing there. Alright, so the Avenger is... Yes, okay, so here we go. I think we'll use torpedoes. Yeah, we already used the bombs on the Avenger, I think. So we use the torpedoes. 3 dice. We've been getting lucky with those, though. So here's the Avenger. 6s are hits. Oh, and yet another one. All right. Now this brings up a rule that some people use and not everybody does. And it's called the crippled rule. So if your ship is crippled, there's a number of different bad things that can happen. And what we're going to say is what the one that's typically is that you get -1 on all your dice, but 6s still count as 2 hits. Alright. And then we have our Hellcat with its main gunnery strafing run on the Uzokaze. And 1, which is not enough to do any damage whatsoever. So all 3 planes got through, but only 1 got hit, but it was enough to cripple the Yamato. So that's it for the air attack phase. Now we're on the surface attack phase. So that crippling applies right now. So it may have just saved the carrier, but we shall see. So the Yamato is within 16 inches. I've already measured it out. So it's going to be 15 dice and 5 dice. So 15 dice, but now has to get 5s and 6s, but 6s still count as double hits. Alright. Yeah, that's going to do it. We got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Well, what's the vital armor? Well, the vital armor is 12, so it's only one hit. That's not so bad. Let's see what would have happened if it wasn't damaged. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, that crippling saved the Saratoga from dying a horrible death. That's just one hit. Oh, and crippled carriers can't launch or take planes. So that's pretty gnarly, but the opponent doesn't get the points for it. All right, so now we got 5 dice from the Yamato. And just got 1, 2, 3 hits. That's not enough. And there's nothing else within range of surface gunnery stuff, but we do have the Uzukazi is within, oh, let's see if it's within 4 inches. The sub tried to take a hard turn there to maybe get out of range. And we have, no, looks like you're getting hit with the depth charge from the Uzukazi. Alright, so we got 5 dice. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's enough to get 1 hit. So it only has 2 hull points. Go. And I don't believe the Shoho has any kind of range. No. Alright. So now, any other surface attacks? Saratoga actually gets 6 dice at this range. So we're going to give her 6 dice. But she would have to get 5 6s or 4 6s and then 2 other hits. And didn't even come close. But at least you get the shot. Alright, so that is it for the surface attack phase. Now we're on to the torpedo phase. And the Zvardfish gets to shoot first. Going to try to finish off the Yamato. This could end the game right here. So the Zvardfish, that's at a range of 1, so it's going to be 3 dice. And a single 6 will finish off the Yamato. Oh, no joy. Nothing there. Swing and a miss. And I think that the Uzukaze can shoot. Oh, let's just see. I don't think it's within range. Within 16. Oh, that's close, but not quite. It's about 16 and a half. But I think the carriers, if it's might be under some duress this next turn. All right, we'll show you what happens in round 4. Actually, it's going to be round 5, I believe. All right, here we are, round 5, which was probably, if the 6s keep coming up for the Allies here, it's going to be the last round of the game. There's 5 damage on the crippled Yamato, and the Uzukazi is 1 hit away from dying, and the Shoho only has an armor of 1, so it does have 3 hull points though. So unless you meet its vital armor of 6, it sticks around for a while. All right, so here we go. The Americans are going to come in here and try to finish off the Yamato. The Yamato obviously will defend herself. And I think the thing that scares it the most is right now the Avenger. So they're going to shoot at the Avenger. The Avenger has the armor of 5, so needs 5 to get rid of it. And 1, 2, 3. On the air defense, no good. And the Shoho lends her guns. No good. Uzukazi. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the Mitchell is being sent home. It's aborted. Alright. That is that. Which means the Avenger, the Dauntless, and the Hellcat all get through. So we'll start with the Hellcat. Gets 3 dice. Just needs to get a single hit, which means 2 hits on the Izukazi. And that's it. The Izukazi is going to die. Because that's worth 2 hits, and it only needed 1 more. So the Izukazi will be destroyed this round. Mitchell is gone. Alright, so the Avenger coming in with 3 dice. Will this be it for the Yamato? It will not. And then the Dauntless with 10 dice, which sounds like a lot, except there's an armor of 10 waiting for it, so... Nope, not gonna happen. Only got 5 hits there. Alright. So the planes were unable to do what they wanted to, except for the Izukazi is finally gone after limping around and causing grief. That's 17 points for the Allied fleet. And now it's time for the surface guns to open up. And the surface guns, well, we'll leave him there. The surface guns, the Saratoga is range, should have measured this out first, sorry folks. Isn't as easy as it looks or sounds. Alright, so range 3 is 16 inches, range 2 is 12 inches. Alright, so we go midships. Right there, and we see that the Yamato is indeed range of even secondary guns, but the secondary guns on the Saratoga can not hurt because they have only 4, and even if you got all 6s, that would only be 8 on the Yamato's armor of 10. Some people play that once it's crippled, the armor drops 1 spot. I don't do that because steel. I know it has to do with fire control and whatnot, but I don't like making too many layers in the game. But the Saratoga does get 6 dice and 4 dice as a surface attack against the Yamato. Could use it on the Shoho, but again, if the Yamato doesn't get sunk, no joy. So we're going to do our 6 dice. Need lots of 6s here. No, nothing. Okay. We're just going to measure real quickly here to see if the Shoho... No, not even close. Seeing if the Shoho was in range. Alright, so now it's surface attack time for the Japanese. And the Japanese are well within the range of 2. So that's going to be 16 dice, 7 dice, and 3 dice on the Saratoga. So 16 dice, that's I believe 5, 10, 16. I believe so. That's 6. Yeah. Your eyes play tricks on you. Alright. So 16 dice on the Saratoga with a vital armor of 12. Okay, so we got 2, 4, 5. So that's just barely enough to get another hit because the armor is 5. So that's another hit on the Saratoga. But then the Yamato also has 5 more guns that can open up on the Saratoga. Oh, and another hit. 2, 4, oh no, -1, so that's a 3, so it's not a hit. So, boy, I tell you, that crippling came right at the right time. That Saratoga would have been dead twice over. Alright, so... the other surface guns of the Yamato can reach out 3. I guess it can actually hit. So this is the tertiary guns from the Yamato. No. 1 hit. Alright. Now the Shoho can't reach, anything like that. So we're done with the surface attack phase. Now we're at the torpedo attack phase. Oh, the Shoho gets its ASW attack. Right. So not the Shoho, sorry. Oh, the Izukazi's gone. So yeah, this sub now can roam with impunity. There's nothing the Japanese have that can touch it. So it's just going to fire some torpedoes. So 3 dice. And it's within range I think it's actually out of range for 3 dice. I think it's down to 2, which would make this even more dramatic, because it's at a range 2, possibly. Oh, no, still range 1, within 8 inches. So it's 3 dice. A 6 here ends the game. Oi, nothing. I guess those earlier hits were kind of fluky, right? So that's it for torpedoes. Nobody else has torpedoes to fire with their subs and ships. That is it. I don't see anybody else with torpedoes because there's only a couple ships left. All right, so then the air return phase. So the poor Mitchell's going to go back and rearm here. And these planes are going to come back to their damaged carrier, which is 40% damage on it right now, but hanging in there, hanging in there. All right, so now we got our last round coming up, and this will, I'm not just saying that, it's probably going to be the last round. Of course, I thought this was going to be the last round, but with the Izukazi gun, that's it. All right, round 6 coming up. All right. This could be the swan song for the Imperial Japanese Navy here. Here we are in round 6. We have the damaged Saratoga still launching planes. The Shoho with no cover, the Yamato with no cover. But they did make a nice move because the sub and the carrier closed here thinking that the Yamato would try to come in here and just blast away, and the Yamato moved away. So it's now out of range of the submarine, and the secondary guns of the Saratoga cannot reach to do any damage. Alright, now we have the air defense phase. We'll see if the Japanese can get lucky enough to actually shoot down a plane. Here we go. No. Wow. And the Shoho. Oh, and these are going after the Avenger, by the way. And 3 hits, not enough. Alright, well, we'll start with the Avenger then. 3 torpedoes against the Yamato. And, oh, and just to add some insult to injury. So that would be the game then, folks, because it's during the torpedo phase, or the air attack phase. There's no other Japanese things to be done. The Yamato gets destroyed and will be removed from the game on this phase. So dump all the stuff off, and that is that. The Shoho was actually going to be strafed by the, oh my goodness, and the Shoho takes vital armor 6, so it only takes one damage really, but that would be it, folks. So congratulations to the Allied fleet here, suffering a couple of lost destroyers and some shot up planes that kept making it back, and a kind of a beat up carrier and a sub that's doing pretty well. But for the most part, the Yamato, as we know, is a big old bomb magnet and a torpedo magnet. And those early hits, the 2 hits on the second round or the first round, whenever it was right off the bat. Really changed the game, because if those had missed, there's a good chance the Yamato would have sunk the carrier, and every time those planes come back, they're going to be getting shot at and shot at and shot at, and eventually they're going to shoot them down. But never got a single hit as far as a destroyed aircraft goes this game, and so that tells you in this game it's very important to have air cover. 1 Zeke was not enough. But I went with a later war scenario, knowing, of course, that the Shoho was sunk in 42, I believe, at Midway. I believe so. Sometimes it tells you on the cards. Oh, Coral Sea. That's right, the Coral Sea. Sorry. I knew it was lost in one of those big name battles. Anyway. And so, and the Yamato, as we know, died much later in the war. But air power is a huge deal. Subs are a lot of fun in this game. Subs got lucky in this game, I think. This one got very fortunate. Didn't get hit with ASW on 3 or 4 attacks, and its torpedoes landed twice, I believe. So it was punching well above its weight this game. So congratulations to the Dutch. If you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. So there you go. But that's how you play the game. And again, you can see how going for objectives and other stuff can get worked into this. Putting out objective markers, and you try to establish control over an area and keep anybody out. So there's so many variations on this game. That's why I love playing it. It's a lot of fun, and it's not really difficult to learn. This is very, very, very handy. Right on the back. And there's other cards that you can get that'll help out with quick reference. The big thing is trying to keep track of everything that you own and what it can do. So, anytime you come up with, all these different things that things can do, like carriers can launch better planes and whatnot, all that kind of stuff. You just got to try to keep it all straight. It does get a little layered, and it's kind of tough to do on your own, to tell you the truth. But thanks for watching, folks. Take care, hug your loved ones. Hope your summer is going well. If you're watching this in the winter, well, hey, it's a hot day today here in the Lower Mainland, but we're enjoying it. So, again, hug your loved ones. Have your friends over. Have a games night. Spread the love, folks. So many people out there trying to do the opposite. Hey, let's just be us. Let's be good people. And let's make sure that people know that gaming is fun, and that we're good people, and let's keep those lines of communication open with our loved ones and our friends, and make your game circle ever bigger. And hey, may those dice be with you.